lovely Kursush people. So I am going to tell you the story today of Macha. It is a sad story of cruelty and misogyny, so be prepared. But it explains to us why the warrior hero Cuchulainn of Ulster ends up holding the gap of the North on his own. Especially in the big epic battle of the Táin, which we haven't touched on in the storytelling yet, but I will be doing a recording of it soon in sections. So when we come to the big epic Táin story, we have a number of what are called ravescéile, or kind of prologues, stories that set the scene, and this story of Macha is one of them. Now we have a number of different Machas if we look through the mythology, and Macha is an aspect of the Morrigan or the Morrigu. So we have the three aspects, which are Morrigan, Morian, Great Queen or Phantom Queen, and Baive and Macha. So Macha is associated with Armagh or the Waka, the high place of Macha, and we will find out why in this story. And so we'll see as we come to the end, because she is treated with such cruelty, such misogyny, such injustice, that she really is a goddess to call to for justice. You know, you could see it as vengeance, but it is about rebalancing and about appropriate justice, appropriate punishment. So we start with back in the mists of time, a widower farmer named Crinneoch, and he works his farm with his 4 children who are left without a mother after his wife's death. And one evening, as he is coming back from his work, he sees, just walking across his land, and she has basically come out of the other world, out of the world of the She, Tirnanog if we want. And she just walks into his house, and she begins to act in every way as if she is the woman of the household, his wife. She looks after the children, she prepares food, and he becomes besotted with her. Now, in all these relationships and romances between someone from the She and a human mortal person, we always see conditions. It's the same in the stories of Selkies, you know, the seal women who have their skins stolen by maybe a fisherman or somebody like that. There are conditions, and if those conditions are broken, then the woman will go. In this case, Macha tells Crinneoch that he must never boast about her or about any special skills or powers that she has. And one of her great skills is the swiftness that she has, her speed in running. And all goes on well until on a particular day there is a great fair or Éineach to be held. And at this fair, everyone is told the king has these new horses. They are the fastest that have ever been seen in the land of Ireland. And everyone is eagerly waiting for when the king will run his chariot and horses around the racetrack and, you know, prepare to be amazed. These are going to be incredibly fast horses. And Crinneoch is at the fair, and maybe he has a few drinks, or maybe he just forgets. But when he hears about these super fast horses, he says thoughtlessly, recklessly, "Sure, that's nothing. My wife could run faster than those horses." And this gets repeated around the crowd at the fair. You know, there's a guy down there and he says his wife can run faster than the king's new horses. You know, that can't be true, can it? So eventually this murmur comes to the ears of the king himself. And the king says, "What? Who is this absolute fool saying that his wife can run faster than my horses, undermining this amazing day, this display I'm going to have? And he calls Crinach before him. And he says, you're in big trouble here, he said, shooting your mouth off saying things like that on a day like this. It can't be true. So you just stand up here and acknowledge before everyone that this is not the truth. This is a lie. And maybe you'll escape with your life. And Crinach says, but it is true. I shouldn't have said it, but it is true. And the king says, well then, let us prove it. Let your wife be sent for, and she can race the horses, and let's see if your word is true. And Crinach then, a bit late in the day, remembers they're expecting a new baby, and Macha is heavily pregnant, and this is not going to be a good idea at all. So he pleads with the king, no, please, my wife is pregnant, you can't do this. Anyway, the king says, look, I'm not listening to another word from you. And he sends two of the warriors, two messengers, off to the farmstead to get Macha, to bring her to the marketplace, to bring her to the king's racetrack, and to race his horses. Now, when the warriors get out to the household, they see that indeed she is very heavily pregnant. And she listens to what they have to say. And she's really angry with Crinach, naturally. But she says to them, look, you can see how things are. Look at my condition. I am literally about to give birth any day now. You can't expect, the king cannot expect me to race the horses in my present condition. And they said, well, look, we're not authorized to, go against the king's wishes. Maybe if you come with us and you explain to him what the situation is and he can see for himself, he will give you a reprieve. So she puts the oldest in charge of the rest of the children, and off she goes with the warriors to be brought to the king's stables. So she gets there, and the king shows no mercy at all. He goes, well, it's not my problem. I didn't make you pregnant. Your fool of a husband here is the one who was shooting his mouth off. So you can blame him for you being in this predicament. And she goes, oh, yeah, don't get me wrong. Absolutely, I blame him. But surely you have some compassion. You have some mercy in you. You are not going to ask a pregnant woman who's about to give birth to race these horses right now. I will happily do it a month after I give birth. But he says, no, you must do it. If not, it's going to be the worst for your husband. And she looks around at the crowd, and there are so many men there, and they're all excited at the idea of this great race. Whereas this woman, is she really, magical? Is she going to be able to outrun the king's horses? And they're all fired up just for the excitement and the spectacle. And she looks at them and she says, look, she said, every one of you came from a mother. Can you not show me mercy? Can you not show me compassion? Appeal to the king on my behalf. And none of them show her compassion. They all just go, race, race, race. And so she has to. And she lines up beside these horses and she begins to run as they run. And it takes every ounce of strength she has. She is magical. She is as swift as the wind. What Crinach has said is actually true. But the veins are standing out on her neck and the sweat is pouring down her body, her pregnant body. And eventually she outruns the horses and she gets to the finish line. And as she gets to the finish line, she lets out this great cry. It is her birthing pang. A big belly roar. Ha! But that birthing pang is also her death pang. And it is her last cry. And as she falls to the ground, she gives birth to twins, and she breathes her last but not before. She has looked around at all those men and the king and her husband, and she says, "You men of Ulster, who showed me no compassion, no mercy, no understanding in my time of need, I curse you now with my dying breath. That when you are in the time of your greatest need, when you face your enemy advancing from the west, you will be stricken with the pains and the pangs of a woman in childbirth." And with that she dies. And Macha's curse comes to pass, and it lasts for generations. That at the time of their greatest need, the warriors of Ulster are stricken with the pains of labour, the pains of a woman in childbirth, unable, unfit to go into battle, giving their enemy the advantage, except for one. And that one is Cuchulainn, the Hound of Cullen, the Hound of Ulster, the foremost #1 champion of Ulster. But he's yet only an adolescent, so he's not a man of Ulster as yet. Plus, he is the son of Lu, god of light, so he is part of that magical race, I suppose, like a demigod. And for these reasons, he is exempt from Macha's curse. And so when we come to great epic battle stories, especially within the Táin Bó Cúailnge, where Queen Maeve and her husband set off after an argument to get a great bull from the Cooley Peninsula, now County Louth, and to bring that bull back to Connacht so that they would be equal in all things, thus maintaining Maeve's sovereignty. When that epic battle kicks off, Cuchulainn is alone facing the Connacht army, ambushing, picking off different little scouting parties that go forward and entering into single combat with some of Queen Maeve's warriors. And the reason he is alone for those days is because of Macha's curse. And when in that Táin story, Queen Maeve meets the seer poet Fidelm, and through that passage in the Táin we hear about the Imbas Forosne, which is a technique of prophecy. It draws on the Imbas, the inflowing of illumination, to bring in a foreknowledge, a foretelling. And Maeve meets Fidelm on the course of the battle and asks her, "How will it go with my army?" And Maeve's answer is generally translated as, "I see it crimson, I see it red." In other words, the battlefield will run red with the blood of your army. And Maeve can't accept the answer. She can't understand it because she knows that the curse is impacting Conor MacNessa's troops, that they will be down with the pangs of childbirth because of Macha's curse. And therefore she keeps questioning Fidelm, and Fidelm keeps saying the same thing. And Maeve's brain just won't compute it because she goes, "I know the men are struck down with labour pains, and therefore they won't be able to enter into combat just yet, and we'll be able to get right up there before they are fit for battle." But she has reckoned without Cuchulainn, his exemption from the curse, and also his incredible prowess as a warrior. So Macha has had her retribution on the warriors of Ulster for their misogyny, for their cruelty, for their lack of compassion, and that is known as Macha's curse. And therefore she is a good ally to call to for justice, because they don't get away with what they have done. And that place now, one of the sacred sites of Ireland in County Armagh, is called Macha, or the place of the birthing of Macha's twins. So not a pleasant story, but a powerful one, and an important rave scale or prologue story to set the scene for the Táin Bó Cúailnge story. So taking time to get to know Macha, I think, is very, very worthwhile, and she is a powerful goddess and a strong ally to women. And we will have more stories from the Táin coming soon. So, slán go fóill.